What's up, my Treadwell Eagles? Hope you're doing well. Today's article is going to be discussing artificial selection and selective breeding. And this is in the same vein of what we talked about in our last video on the intersection between life science and engineering and how humans can interact to intervene and how genetics and other things can be altered. And so today's article is called Corn, Dogs, and Genes. The way this is going to work is I'm going to read through it on this video. The link of the document is also in the description, so you can pull that up on your own as well. I'm going to read through it after this. There's also a link in the description for a little quiz with some questions pertaining to the article. So make sure you complete that. And let's get started. So, corn, dogs, and genes. Have you ever heard that all dogs are related to wolves? The resemblance of some dogs, such as huskies, German shepherds, and Akitas, bear to wolves is quite striking. You can see how they may be related. But what about other dogs? Pugs look nothing like wolves. Neither do Chihuahuas, Dachshunds, or toy poodles. Yet these dogs are also distant relatives of the wolf. So, how did we get from wolves to toy poodles? The answer is artificial selection. Humans change specific characteristics of organisms by a process known as selective breeding. How have humans been able to choose which traits of organisms are passed on to offspring? Selective breeding is a process in which humans choose the genetic traits they want in the offspring of a plant or an animal. These genetic traits are determined by the genes found in DNA that are passed from parent to offspring in each generation. Parent organisms with the desired genetic traits are chosen to breed with other. This increases the chance that the offspring will also have the traits. Over several generations, the new breed or variety within a species can be produced by breeding parents that have particular traits. These parents pass the genes for these traits along to their offspring. Humans have used selective breeding to develop a wide variety of breeds in some species, such as dogs, cattle, corn, and apples. If you go to the market, you'll see lots of different apples, Fiji, Gala, things like that. That's because of selective breeding. Grains are an example of selective breeding from very in human history. People would selectively breed certain types of grains in order to grow more bountiful crops, or bigger, larger, greater crops. They would choose plants with the traits that using those traits, people were then able to change the gene pool of the plants to get populations that they wanted. Let us use corn as an example. The corn that we know today grows very tall, sturdy, green stalks. Each stalk has several large ears of corn. Each ear has outer layers of tough green leaves that protect the hundreds of beautiful yellow underneath. The corn that we know takes 2 hands to hold and eat. A person can have a fairly good meal with 1 ear of corn. But the corn of prehistoric times did not look like that at all, or look at all like the corn that we use for today. Prehistoric corn looked much more like modern day wheat. It grew on small stalks, and the kernels were not protected by thick green leaves. So, how did it change from wheat-like plant to corn that we know today? Selective breeding. The change began when people started the practice of agriculture or growing their own crops. The theory goes that they noticed that certain plants had different traits than other plants. Some plants had larger fruits, some plants had stronger stalks, some plants grew taller. So people began to use the seeds only from the plants that had the traits they wanted. In other words, they chose the plants with the genes they wanted. In the case of corn, people most likely planted the seeds of only those plants with large kernels. In other words, they selectively bred the plants that had the genes they wanted, such as a gene for large kernels. With each generation of corn, only seeds from plants with the largest kernels were replanted. Over generations, corn grew larger and larger kernels. Several thousand years later, selective breeding changed the gene pool of corn and created the corn we know today. Let us return to the dog example. Dogs have been documented to have been a part of human culture for the last 7,000 years. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans domesticated wolves perhaps as far back as 20,000 years ago. Early humans likely adopted orphaned wolves to keep for both protection and for help with hunting. A modern-day experiment called the farm fox experiment explores how species of animals can become domesticated. Certain individual animals show less fear towards humans. These animals are bred with other animals with the same trait. Their offspring also have less natural fear of humans. Over many generations, the fear of humans can actually be bred out and replaced with the affection for humans. In this way, animals can be domesticated. Therefore, it is hypothesized that a similar process occurred when early humans domesticated wolves into dogs that live with us today. The domesticated dog did not change much for many thousands of years, but as civilization changed, so did the need for different types of dogs. This led to the many different breeds of dogs that we see today. Dogs that were good at hunting were bred only with other dogs that were very good at hunting. This led to a variety of hunting dogs, from bird dogs to big game dogs. As towns and cities grew, there was a greater need to get rid of rodents or mice, things like that. In these cases, many small dogs that could fit through holes and under buildings were greatly desired. These dogs also had to be fierce in temperament. Therefore, dogs with these traits were selectively bred, leading to breeds such as terriers. As society changed, people with wealthy families desired small and pretty dogs to play with, so they selectively bred dogs that were kind and had silky coats and could be carried under the arm. This led to breeds such as toy breeds. The domestication of animals and selectively breeding crops have helped people. There are other ways that we have altered the genes of organisms to benefit society too. Advances in modern science have allowed genetic outcomes to be changed through artificial selection. In gene therapy, DNA itself is used to help specific types of diseases. In the most basic senses, properly working genes are used to replace mutated genes. Somatic gene therapy works to treat people's non-reproductive cells, such as their bone marrow. Therefore, it can only be used for individuals with a disease. Clinical trials look promising, but gene therapy has not yet been shown to completely correct genetic disorders. Who knows where this next level of artificial selection could take us with future studies? One day we may be able to select gene treatments that cure any type of disease, which would be really, really exciting. So anyways, hope you learned something in this article. Make sure to click the link for the quiz, complete that. Give me your feedback on that. I appreciate those of you who have been doing your quizzes so far. And that's all for now. Until the next video, peace.